Hi class, if you intend to do project 2 with a manual camera like this, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for that. All of these cameras come with a manual, and you can read the manual if you like, but they are pretty daunting. It takes a lot of time, so I'm just going to show you the basics just to get going, okay? So the first thing with one of these cameras, if this camera is brand new to you, is that the lenses come on and off. That's why they're called DSLRs. So you'll have a little button here, and then do you see there's this little white dot over here? So I'm going to press this button and turn my lens so that it lines up with the dot on the lens, and that means it can come on and off now. So to put it back on, you line those dots up again and just turn it till it clicks. The next thing is you'll need to make sure that the battery is in the camera, so make sure your camera is off while you're doing this, and go to the bottom of the camera. There'll be a little tab here you can open. Right? And then it has a little tab underneath it that you can pull on, and the battery will come out. Make sure this thing is charged. It is very annoying to get to everything ready and your battery is not charged. So just the day before or whatever, pull it out, make sure it's charging. And then the last thing is to make sure you have an SD card in your SD card holder. So it'll usually have a little grip where you can pull and press and pull, and then you'll push down gently on your card and you can pull it out. So this is your SD card and it goes right there. To make sure you're putting it in the right way, it'll usually have a little image underneath, just like with batteries, just make sure things line up. And now your camera has everything in it that it needs to get going. So almost all of these have a little on and off switch, so I'm going to turn this on here. And then you'll have a variety of options at the top. As I discussed at in the introduction, I would suggest manual so you can actually control your focal points and all of that, but it is up to you. Often also the lenses will have a place on them where you can control whether or not the focus is auto or manual. So this one does not, but if you're having a problem like that, your camera keeps adjusting focus on you, and you don't want it to do that, switch your actual lens to manual. Alright, so now that I have my camera on, I'm going to go to the menu. The reason I'm going to go to the menu is that I need to make sure that I am shooting these photographs as JPEGs. These cameras usually can do JPEG and RAW. So RAW is a higher quality image. It has much more information, and most of the time it's great to be shooting in RAW, but because we're going to be taking such a high number of them and processing them through Premiere, we want to be in JPEG. So I'm going to go to my menu, and I have a couple different options in my menu. So I'm going to go to my camera options, which is called the shooting menu in this camera, and I'm going to go to image quality and JPEG normal. You could also do JPEG fine. Actually, let's do JPEG fine. And then go to your image size, and I have a couple different options. I'm going to pick large. As long as it is larger than 1920 by 1080, that should be fine. And now you should be ready to go. Go ahead and get a tripod. Go ahead and get your object, your tripod, and we'll start warm-up 2. So the requirements for warm-up 2 are that you need an inanimate object you're going to bring to life, and at least 24 frames, just enough to get you sort of going. We're not making masterpieces, we're just getting used to the idea of stop motion. So I already took all of my images. I'm going to go ahead and bring those over to the computer now. Okay, so I have put my SD card in my computer, and it's over here as untitled. If you do not have an SD card slot on your computer, you can buy a really cheap SD to like USB or whatever it is, USB-C converter that's on your computer. Or most of the cameras have a USB-C dock on them, so you can bring the images over that way. However you can get your images onto your computer is totally fine. Then you'll want to locate them. So for me, they are here in this folder. I want to take all of them off of this, or duplicate them and put them in a folder that's on my computer. So I did do that already. It's here in my class folder under project 2 and warm up into camera. So make sure you put them in their own folder. And the reason we need to put them all in their own folder is that we're going to import them as an entire folder into Premiere Pro. It's also really important to stay organized right from the jump with Premiere in particular, because Premiere doesn't actually save files into the program itself. It just references files outside of it. So if you move those files, it'll get confused. There's ways to locate the images again, but it's just better to stay organized from the start. So make your folder, put everything in it, and don't move it once you make it. Now let's bring up Premiere. Okay. So once you have Premiere open, you are going to want to make a new project. You only want to do this once. You want to make a new project one time and then make new sequences within that project for everything that you do for this class. So I made a project named Swan Art 300 Demo. You don't need to say demo, you can just say your last name, Art 300. And once we have this open, you may end up with sort of an import screen at the beginning. I always skip that because I find that import mode really clunky. So I want to get to this page. Once I'm at this page, I'm going to go up here to Premiere Pro in the top edge. If you're using a PC, just go to File. And I'm going to go to Settings. And then Settings, Timeline. Once this pulls up, you have a couple options here in your flyout panel. The two I'm interested in are video transition default duration and still image default duration. So this is essentially your frames per second here. So 30 frames per second. And your still image default duration is probably something like 4 seconds. I want to change this. I'm going to click this down arrow. I'm going to change it to frames, and I'm going to change it to 5 frames. So 30 divided by 5, I am now going to have a stop motion animation of about 6 frames per second. You can modify this. You could maybe do 10 frames or something. Oh, what would that? No, 2 frames if you wanted to do something a little faster. But I like 6 frames per second, so we're gonna run with that. All right, so now welcome to Premiere. Premiere is an extremely powerful industry standard technology, little piece of software. So it has a bunch of different windows that you can use. So right now, let's see what I have. I'm gonna go to Window, Workspace. All right, I have all panels up. Go ahead and change yours to all panels as well so that you can follow along with what I'm doing. And let's go ahead and import. So I'm gonna go to File, Import, and I'm going to go to my Project 2, and I'm going to import this whole folder. So the reason I'm going to import the folder and not the individual photos is that the individual photos may come in the wrong order. If I have them in my folder, they'll be automatically in the right order. So I'm going to go ahead and import. And you see that my folder appeared here. All right, so now I'm going to open up my warm-up to bin, and I have all of the images I took before. I'm going to highlight my first one, hit Shift, and highlight the last one. I'm going to drag all of this into my timeline. So now a couple things have happened. The first thing is that my timeline has information on it. The second thing is I now have a screen up here. This is your preview screen. And the timeline is where you can see each individual frame and where it is in time. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play in my preview screen. And you can see that's already something you can turn in for credit. And if you get to this point, you're totally fine. I just noticed when I was watching that this was a little awkward. I feel like the bunny needs to sort of look around a little bit. So I'm going to hold this frame a little bit by hitting Command C. I'm going to make some room here by highlighting everything and dragging them over one. And then I'm going to take my little playhead, move it forward, and do Command V. So now I have boop, boop, boop. Hold on. Let me play that again. Okay, I'm happy with that little edit. I feel like it makes it seem like he thought a little bit longer about it. You can do all kinds of things to the frames once you have them in here. So right now I'm on my little clicker tool, which allows me to move things around. If you move these back, you can lengthen a frame for as long as you want. So maybe I want that moment to last longer. Something else that could be very useful to you is to nest these all. So if you highlight them all and right click, you can make a nest, and we'll call this stop motion warm up. And now these can be edited as one thing, so you no longer have to worry about moving your individual images around. You can double click on your nest and you'll see what's actually inside of your nest, and you can change that again. So what's this screen over here? So I like to do something called 3-point editing. It's not necessary for us right at this point, but if you double click on any one frame, it'll appear over here and allows you to change this individual frame by itself. So we'll get more into that for the full Project 2 tutorial, but I just wanted you to be familiar with what this panel is. It's essentially a preview panel for your individual frames. And then over here on the right, you have a variety of controls. You can control the properties of anything you're modifying. You can get some information about, say, the image you're actually on, and you have some effects that you can use. So when we get into Project 2, we may want to add a color filter, we may want to put everything in black and white, anything like that. You'll need this effect panel for that. So I'm happy with what I've done here. I'm ready to turn this in. I'm going to go back to my little clicker tool, highlight everything, and I'm going to go to File, Export, Send to Adobe Media Encoder. Once my video populates over here in Media Encoder, I have a couple of options. So you'll want to make sure that your first option is on H.264. There's a variety of other options available to you, but H.264 is the one that I want. Then I can change my export quality. So I'm going to export as YouTube 1080p because I typically publish to YouTube. If you typically publish to Vimeo or something like that, you'll want to pick that preset. And then I want to make sure the output file has the name that I want. So I'll click on the output file, and I'm going to call this Swan Warm Up 2 Camera. I'm going to put that in my Project 2 folder, and I'm going to hit save. Then I will run it just like that. Okay, so my MP4 should be waiting for me in my class folder, and I can turn that in for credit.